Here's a chilling paradox that seems impossible at first glance. When rivers froze solid, fields vanished under snow, and firewood ran scarce, medieval peasants, people with the fewest resources, somehow stayed alive through winters that would cripple modern cities. And the mystery is how. How ordinary families survived months of ice and darkness without insulation, central heating, or reliable fuel. Imagine waking before dawn to a world locked in white silence, breath crystallizing in the air, frost crawling across the inside of walls, and yet life continuing, meals cooked, children sleeping, bodies enduring. And as we step into these frozen years, we uncover a story not of suffering alone, but of quiet intelligence, where warmth wasn't something you turned on, it was something you protected, shared, and earned through deeply learned survival wisdom. To understand how peasants stayed warm, you have to understand the world they lived in, because medieval winters were longer, darker, and often harsher than today, especially during cold phases when growing seasons shortened and storms intensified. Peasants lived close to the land, storing just enough food and fuel to make it through winter, knowing that a single mistake could mean starvation or freezing. And their homes weren't designed for comfort. They were designed for endurance, shaped by centuries of trial and error, floods, freezes, and failed harvests. And unlike nobles who could retreat behind stone walls and roaring hearths, peasants had to rely on what they could gather, build, and preserve themselves, passing down survival knowledge orally. Through watching parents, neighbours, and elders who had already survived winters that nearly broke them. Now, here's where the real ingenuity appears, because peasants didn't stay warm by creating more heat. They stayed warm by refusing to lose it. Imagine small, low-ceilinged homes with thick walls of wattle and daub that blocked wind and regulated moisture. Floors sunk slightly into the earth to tap into the ground's stable temperature, and hearths placed centrally so heat soaked into walls and floors instead of escaping. Clothing layered strategically, linen to manage sweat, wool to trap heat, fur where available to shield extremities. And clothing was rarely removed at night. Beds were stuffed with straw or reeds, raised off frozen ground, sometimes enclosed in box beds that trapped body heat like a pocket of warmth. And animals were often kept indoors or attached to living spaces, their body heat contributing just enough warmth to shift survival odds, and none of this was accidental. Every habit, from how doors were sealed at night to how people slept close together, was the result of hard lessons learned during winters when those who failed simply didn't survive. And this is where medieval peasant survival feels unsettlingly relevant, because modern life has made us dependent on continuous energy, yet a single winter storm can strip that away in hours. And the peasant's approach teaches us to think differently, to create warm zones instead of heating entire spaces, to prioritize insulation and moisture control over raw heat, to use bedding, clothing, and human presence strategically. Imagine applying this today during a blackout by sealing one room, layering floors and windows, wearing wool instead of cotton, eating calorie-dense food, and sleeping together rather than alone. And suddenly, these ancient strategies don't feel primitive, they feel practical, even life-saving, reminding us that resilience comes from preparation and design, not convenience. So, how did peasants stay warm when everything froze? They survived by understanding their world deeply, by working with cold instead of fighting it, and by treating warmth as a shared resource rather than an endless supply. And as climate uncertainty grows and modern systems reveal their fragility, the quiet intelligence of these forgotten people deserves more than pity. It deserves respect because their lives prove that survival isn't always about having more, it's about knowing more. And if this journey into frozen history changed how you think about winter, warmth or resilience, consider sharing it, subscribing, or continuing to explore how the past still whispers instructions for surviving the cold future ahead.